going for a ride. And Silva. Oh, take it to him. Yeah, increasing success.
Colby Covington is arguably the biggest heel in combat sports history. He is an absolute beast who backs up his words by ragdolling the opponents in the octagon until their spirit is broken. Colby appreciates women of high quality, despises Black Lives Matter, and respects the military and the first responders.
Thank all the first responders out there, military, law enforcement. You're the real heroes of America.
We will look into Colby Covington's career and how he went from someone almost losing his job in the UFC to a world champion and a superstar who became Donald Trump's favorite fighter.
Colby is a winner, he's a champ.
Covington spent most of his childhood in Oregon. Following in the footsteps of his father, Colby started training in wrestling, where he found immediate success. Covington won the 171-pound state championship as a senior in 2006. He continued the momentum during his college days by scoring a 34-0 record and winning the National Junior College Wrestling title as a true freshman, an achievement that could have made even his roommate at the time, John Jones, envious. After graduation, Chaos won a gold medal at the 2013 FILA Grappling No-Gi World Championship in the process before being recruited by Dan Lambert to the American Top Team MMA gym. Soon enough, Colby realized that wrestling alone wouldn't be enough to pay his bills, so he switched his talent to MMA. The wrestler made his MMA debut on February 11, 2012 and went on a 5-fight winning streak before signing with the most elite MMA organization, the UFC. On August 23, 2014, he was welcomed to the company by Wang Anying, an undefeated 23-year-old prospect coming out from the land of Genghis Khan. The Division I All-American had no struggles in taking Wang down,
Covington going right to work. Big takedown.
which was the starting point of the beginning of the end. Only a few minutes later, Colby showed what happens when you allow an elite wrestler to use his fists.
It's almost defenseless at times.
Yeah, now with one hook.
The referee warned the Mongolian to fight back 3 times,
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
as Colby was hammering his head as if trying to nail it to the canvas,
Right on top of the action.
but eventually jumped in for the rescue to allow Wang to fight another day. This was the first time Colby Covington introduced the UFC community to his relentless wrestling pressure and vicious ground and pound, and he was only getting started. In the next bout, Chaos was scheduled to face Wagner Silva, an elite grappler and submission specialist from Brazil. Fighting him in front of his hometown crowd, the American was not bothered by the "you are going to die" shouts from the crowd and managed to overpower their fighter in the third.
His hands. And there it is, going for a ride. And Silva.
After controlling him on the ground while constantly punishing him with shots, he flattened him out and caught him in a rear naked choke,
Covington and against a very talented.
giving him the option to tap or nap.
It's another finish for Colby Covington.
In the following year, the All-American was locked in the octagon with Mike Pyle, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and an MMA veteran who has been in the sport since 1999. Covington utilized his wrestling throughout the 3 rounds,
And Colby being a Division I All-American, outstanding wrestler. And
controlling Pyle in the clinch and taking him down throughout the fight.
look at this. He makes an attempt to Mike Pyle. And this is one of the things that I thought this was very interesting about this fight.
Where he had a full control over the fight. It turned out that having a BJJ black belt against Colby is as useless as a glass hammer, since Chaos controlled Pyle for the whole 3 rounds.
Let's see, does he have it? Nope.
Colby.
Shoved off by Covington. Beautiful job by Covington. Able to grabbing that fence.
Yes.
And they're both pinned up against the cage here in the scramble. Let's see who comes out on top.
Emerging victorious via unanimous decision. On December 12, 2015, Covington was matched against Warley Alves, an undefeated prospect with 5 out of his 9 victories coming by way of guillotine. The American closed the distance and proceeded to implement his superior wrestling.
Members of the America was against Pyle. That's Covington. Alves fighting outside of Brazil.
Against a fighter whose guillotine squeeze is as powerful as a python suffocating its prey.
Drops down foot again.
Morley's won 2 of his.
As a result, Colby was reminded the hard way that when you fight at this level of competition, one mistake is all it takes to lose a bout. Losing his 0 didn't stop Chaos from aiming to achieve his goal of becoming a top UFC contender. In the following year, he was back to action against Jonathan Monnier, an undefeated finishing machine from Canada whose previous opponents never reached the final bell. Considering that he lost his last fight, Covington was determined to make a statement that his last bout was a fluke, and he entered that bout aggressively.
Covington early.
Ragdolling the newcomer for 2 rounds without much resistance.
That he would get a heavy dose of this.
UFC debut here, staying pretty calm so far, John.
Monnier had no answers to Colby's takedowns.
Nice double there by Covington, finally gets it.
So much respect for the takedown game of Covington that...
And was overpowered in the third when his world started to get black since he gave up his back.
And he's able to get the knockdown.
Very tight. He's going to get the tap here.
And there it is!
In his next bout, Chaos was scheduled to face Max Griffin, a dangerous striker with a solid 12-2 record up to that point. Covington showed Griffin why there are levels to this game from the opening moments of the fight.
Colby engaged to grapple. Now Colby's got the single, and he's got him down.
He disguised him.
As he kept taking him down at will,
And there's a takedown.
and punishing him with heavy ground-and-pound strikes. After securing a Dagestani handcuff in the third,
Warned him, but you have to fight back. Or
Colby was beating the opponent mercilessly,
he's looking to stop it anyway.
making it hard to watch even for hardcore UFC fans, which forced the referee to jump in and wave the fight off. To complete 2016, Covington was matched against Brian Barberena, a fighter known for derailing the Sage Northcutt hype train. Despite lacking excitement and unpredictability, Chaos did what he needed to do to win the contest, as he controlled the opponent in the clinch and took him down on any given opportunity.
Tremendous cardio after that much wrestling. It's another big takedown. Colby Covington, another takedown.
After 3 rounds of pure dominance,
From Covington, he has a lot of... There it is. Big finish, and I like he pulled him away.
Colby's hands were raised victorious again. Chaos flew to Singapore the following year to face Dong Hyun Kim, a judo and taekwondo black belt. This performance was not much different from his last, as Colby controlled most of the fight in the clinch,
So there's a lot of good advice coming his way.
winning every round convincingly.
Nice drive through there, knee tap.
Since Covington was a wrestler who used takedowns and ground control time to win fights, most people found his fighting style boring. Due to his fighting style, he was on the verge of losing his job with the UFC.
They told me no matter what happens, I was ranked number 6 in the world. We're not re-signing you. We don't like your character. We don't like your fighting style.
To prevent that from happening, Chaos used reverse psychology by becoming a supervillain to make people hate him, and with that, they started to care about his fights and loved watching him lose. And just like that, from a respectful and soft-spoken guy, Colby Covington was on a mission to become one of the biggest villains in UFC history. Sure enough, he ensured that in his next fight against Damian Maia, a BJJ world champion and arguably the most decorated submission artist in the division,
You will ever see in MMA from that man right there.
Colby was able to utilize his wrestling to defend all of Maia's takedown attempts.
That's that single from danger. He shoots in. Shot by Maia.
As the Brazilian was desperate and powerless, Covington kept punishing him on the feet.
He's tired, so maybe Colby's working. Nice 1-2s there, nice uppercuts.
Switching to his striking this time while avoiding being taken down at any cost. Although this fight lacked action, it didn't matter at the end since Colby Covington convincingly won every single round to win this fight unanimously.
Increasing 6 out now, reacting to Covington. Colby Chaos!
In the post-fight Octagon interview, Covington gave one of the craziest and most controversial speeches in all of combat sports history, calling Brazil a dump and referring to the Brazilian people as filthy animals.
Brazil, you're a dog. All you filthy animals suck. I got one thing to say.
Despite barely escaping the arena alive, that interview went viral. He used the microphone to make people hate him, which turned out to be the right decision, as the UFC reconsidered their decision about releasing him. Not only did the UFC decide to renew Covington's contract with the promotion, but he was immediately given a shot for the interim UFC welterweight title. On June 9, 2018, Chaos was matched against Rafael dos Anjos, a former champion and a UFC legend.
Varying his attack.
Sure enough, the American went after dos Anjos like a man possessed,
Look at Colby right to him and gets the takedown immediately. Look at this.
putting a breakneck pace that was impossible to bear even for someone like dos Anjos.
Covington down. He liked that head kick out of himself.
He liked it, he smiled.
Colby controlled the Brazilian in the clinch and was taking him down.
Covington with a leg gets the single.
But he also had a fair share of strikes landing on Rafael's face.
It's been much more high volume, especially with his kicks. Oh, nice uppercut by Covington.
Considering the fast pace that Covington implemented from the very beginning of the fight, it seemed that he would be slowing down as the fight progressed. But as a surprise for many, he kept coming for all 5 rounds.
Good for Rafael dos Anjos.
Look at Colby all over.
Dominating the opponent throughout the fight.
Natural, large grab. Covington with a right.
To a victory that gained him the interim UFC welterweight title. After becoming the interim UFC welterweight champion, Covington went to the White House and put the belt on Donald Trump's desk, showing his support for the president. On August 3, 2019, Chaos was scheduled to fight Robbie Lawler, a scary striker with the ability to shut someone's lights off with one punch. Therefore, he again utilized his wrestling, controlling Robbie in the clinch and taking him down at will.
The last corner. Hitting best here early on. Drags Lawler down.
Covington put on non-stop pressure.
Covington in the dominant position here, having his head higher.
Constantly being in Robbie's face.
Unlike Lawler.
Can't keep sitting on your butt here.
Nice combination from Covington as Lawler gets back to his feet.
Brutalizing him throughout the fight with strikes.
Crazy. People don't know how
his feet all 6 times in which he's... Oh, big uppercut from...
And ground and pound shots.
Having his head higher than Lawler's in this position on the fence.
By displaying another masterful performance, the referees had no headache in determining who was the absolute winner of this fight. After going on a 7-fight winning streak and doing tons of trash talk in the process, on December 14th, 2019, Colby Covington was matched against Kamaru Usman for the UFC Welterweight Championship. Usman is one of the greatest UFC champions of all time who had been smoking everyone the UFC had put in front of him without much resistance. Since both fighters were elite wrestlers, they decided to keep the fight standing. After 4 competitive rounds,
Top by Colby. Oh, good right hook by Colby.
where it was hard to determine who was the better fighter, Covington had his jaw broken in the 3rd.
Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which allowed Kamaru to gain momentum in the 4th and 5th. He maintained being the warrior he is, but the Nigeria Nightmare was all over him, capitalizing on the broken jaw opportunity in the 5th when he dropped Colby with a right straight. Covington defended well and tried to recover. But the referee thought he had seen enough and waved the fight off, a decision that Colby immediately disputed. Chaos had recovered and returned better than ever against Tyrone Woodley, a former champion with notable victories.
Working very hard to... Oh! Check his swing. Oh!
Despite being former teammates, Woodley hated Colby for all the trash talk he did against him. The fight was a one-sided beatdown.
Oh, no, takedown attempt for Covington, and he grounds Woodley.
Using his wrestling to get back to his feet.
Yeah, I think it's
And Covington was the bully this time. Although Woodley was known for his solid takedown defense, he was powerless against the unbearable pace and pressure that Colby put on him. Chaos kept being in Woodley's face.
staying sharp.
High kick by Covington.
Okay, here we go, gentlemen.
Without giving him any time to breathe or recover.
Okay, right now, just jockeying for position, digging underhooks.
Brutalizing him with shots throughout the fight.
Guys seemed to land a moment ago. Nice up elbow from Covington.
Finally, in the 5th, after Colby managed to secure a dominant position, Tyrone screamed in pain.
Fancy for Woodley to get that guillotine. Oh, something happened.
Complaining that his rib was broken. The referee jumped in and waved the fight off, allowing Covington to raise his hands victorious again to another flawless performance. On November 6, 2021, Colby Covington was given another shot at the title in a rematch against Kamaru Usman, or as Colby likes to call him, Marty Fake Newsman. The two best welterweights on the planet displayed another competitive fight where both fighters had good moments.
And that he landed on Jorge, my skillful striker. And to see Kamaru KO.
They went toe-to-toe, displaying incredible striking skills.
I mean, I think the work with Oh,
nice. Thank you. 3 minutes gone by. Usman connects.
And determination to win.
Oh, beautiful takedown there by Usman.
Oh.
And none of them was willing to back down. In a back-and-forth war and a close contest that could go either way, the judges saw Usman as the slightly better fighter and granted him the unanimous decision victory. They shared a nice moment immediately after the final bell where Covington broke the villain persona and showed his respect for Usman, displaying great sportsmanship.
Good job.
The following year, Colby was matched against his former roommate and best friend, Jorge Masvidal, the BMF champion.
Oh! Another shot. Oh! His neck is brought to you by Modelo.
Chaos, doing what he knows best, kept the pressure on Masvidal by utilizing his wrestling,
Because he switched to orthodox.
without giving him space to implement his game.
Colby to establish.
The Street Jesus defended well,
Stay on the feet.
Beautiful job.
but had no answer to Colby's attacks, constantly being taken down and controlled with ground and pound shots.
Throw elbows and
As the fight went on, taking down Masvidal became even more accessible as Covington scored an easy takedown in the third,
maybe it's Colby.
establishing a dominant position where he was able to deal damage without facing much resistance.
The output is ridiculous. And Colby's taking full advantage.
In the fourth round, Colby switched to a boxing stance and went after Jorge with heavy artillery of bombs,
Now,
Using them to move.
forcing him to seek salvation behind his high guard. The Street Jesus retaliated with a heavy right that momentarily dropped Colby, but it was far from enough to change the inevitable fight outcome. Colby ragdolled his former best friend for 5 rounds,
Diaz versus Leon Edwards.
winning convincingly on all judges' scores. Colby Covington is one of the biggest heels and trash talkers in the sport who can absolutely back up his words by displaying dominant performances in the octagon. Chaos has been a top contender for years, and considering that the current UFC champion is Leon Edwards, we would probably see an epic showdown between these two where the American would have a clear advantage to win the title. But what do you guys think? Do you believe Covington will become a UFC champion in the future? What do you think of his fighting style and his persona? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you would like to watch more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel.